So historical wargaming, is this a hobby that just anyone can jump into? Or is it more of an exclusive club, with a members-only sign firmly on the door? That's the big question we're going to tackle in this explainer. Okay, let's start with a number, £2,000. That's what one gamer spent on eBay. He bought these absolutely beautifully painted Napoleonic miniatures to finally live out his dream, recreating the Battle of Waterloo right there on his tabletop. So what happened when he got them home? Well, he set them all up, and then reality hit. And this quote, it just nails the central conflict of the hobby, doesn't it? You have this immense passion on one side, and this often overwhelming, super complicated reality on the other, right? So let's follow that journey a little bit. We're gonna start with a grand Napoleonic dream and look at the path from playing digital strategy games to commanding a physical battlefield. This journey is probably a pretty common one. It often starts when you're young. You're fascinated with history. You're playing with toy soldiers. Then as a teen, you get hooked on these really complex, but easy to access computer games. And finally, as an adult, you take the plunge only to realize that the dream of commanding physical armies has some, unexpected hurdles. In this guy's case, it actually led him to create his own simplified house rules just so he could actually play the game. That whole experience really gets to the heart of the no argument. So let's dig into the barriers to battle and really explore why some people say this hobby just isn't for everyone. Well, at least not yet. See, the traditional hobby has some pretty formidable defenses. First up, the high financial cost. Then there's the massive time commitment, and we're not just talking about playing, we're talking months of painting and prep. Then you add in a super steep learning curve, a niche, an often older demographic, and the social challenge of just finding people to play with each one of those is a pretty big hurdle to clear. And this just says it all, doesn't it? The 100-page rulebook. Now look, this isn't just complexity for its own sake. It comes from a really deep love of historical accuracy, a passion for all the little details that bring a battle to life. But for a newcomer trying to learn it, reference it, debate it well, that's where the excitement can really turn into exhaustion. And this highlights a really crucial divide. Think about a computer game like Total War Napoleon. It's complex, it's strategic, and it's massively popular. Why? Because the computer handles all the complicated stuff. It gives you an intuitive learning curve, a low entry cost, and you can play instantly. Now, compare that to its tabletop cousin. The interest from the audience is clearly there, but the accessibility oftentimes, it just isn't. So all of that kind of feeds into a common perception of the player base. The stereotype, as our source points out, is often older gentlemen, really deep history buffs and veteran modelers. Now, don't get me wrong, their passion is the absolute bedrock of this hobby. But if you're a newcomer who doesn't quite fit that mold, it can feel like a very exclusive club to try and break into. But hey, the story doesn't end there. We're now seeing the rise of what you might call the hobby's new guard. And they're evolving the hobby to bring way more people to the table. So how are things changing? Well, the hobby is basically creating new on-ramps instead of a massive battle. Like Waterloo, you can start small with skirmish games that only use a handful of miniatures. You can find starter sets that come with simplified rules. Learn from tons of online tutorials and connect with players in dedicated online communities. The path to your first battle is becoming a whole lot clearer. This new accessibility is leading to some really amazing kind of unexpected benefits. Get this in France. There's a school that's actually using historical wargaming to teach kids about their own history. It turns these abstract dates and names into real, tangible decisions on a tabletop, and it builds critical thinking skills in a really healthy, engaging way. This really proves that a wider audience is out there just waiting. You've got players from digital games like the Total War series who are getting curious about the physical version. You have fans of fantasy games like Warhammer who are already totally comfortable with miniatures and complex rules. And of course, History buffs are still a core part of the audience. The potential for growth here is huge. So all this brings us to our conclusion: the future of wargaming. The hobby really does feel like it's at a crossroads, kind of looking back at its traditions while paving these brand new roads forward. When you boil it all down, you see this really clear pattern for every single enduring challenge, like the cost and the complexity. An emerging solution is popping up, from starter sets and simplified rules to online communities. The hobby is actively trying to solve its own problems. So what could the future actually look like? Well, one really cool idea is the rise of hybrid games. I mean, imagine using a tablet or an app to handle all the complicated rules in math, while you still get that tactile joy of moving physical miniatures on a real battlefield that could truly be the best of both worlds. So we're back where we started, in its most traditional, old-school form. Yeah, historical wargaming probably isn't for everyone. That seems pretty clear. But with all these changes, all these new ways in and new tech on the horizon, the real question is, could it be? And that's a future that's going to be fascinating to watch.